And now I'd like to invite Rick Asper from Pomona High School, class of 1963.
Heaven has a new hero today. We tend to think of our heroes as people that risk their lives for us, and that's fitting. But from time to time, I think we need to pause and remember that some heroes become that way because they enhance our lives. We're here to talk about today one of those people who spent her entire life enhancing the lives of others. 66 years ago, Ada Stokes got on a train in the Midwest, upper Midwest, to ride to a small train station in Pomona, California, a distant suburb of Los Angeles, a blue-collar town surrounded by, at that time, orange trees and walnut trees. And she was met at the train station by the superintendent of schools. That was an unusual event. He did that. Superintendent Simon met her at that train station for two reasons. One is, here is a teacher who had already achieved a master's degree in education, a very rare thing at that time. But more importantly, the story of her principled resignation from another school district in the Midwest rang true to that school district. And they were very, very proud to have employed this brave woman who came out to a town she'd never seen before to become a teacher at the same school for 32 years, Pomona High School. There is a flower arrangement from the 6,000 to 8,000 students that Jepp recognized, taught, and tutored during those 32 years. It may seem disrespectful for me to refer to Ada Stokes Jeppesen as Jepp, but there's a story behind that. It was her principle, her plan, that whenever a student showed any promise at all, and finding that promise was a stretch, present company included, she would invite that student to call her by her self-anointed nickname. When she first got to Pomona, her name was Stokes, and she invited a select few students to call her Stokesy. One of those was my brother, 10 years my senior. He abhors the fact that I continue to refer to him as 10 years my senior, but I like it. And my brother Bruce referred to her as Stokesy, and about 3 or 4 years before I went to high school, my brother came to this young man here, not yet a teenager, and said, by the way, Rick, as I'm going away to college now, it is imperative that you find your way into now Jepp's classroom. And I said, well, Bruce, she's known to be a really tough grader, and I'm not sure I want to do that. You know, I want to get all A's and get scholarships and all that. My brother grabbed me around the shirt, and at that time, I was bigger than he was, but he still grabbed me around the shirt and said, you will be in Jepp's classroom. It turns out he was right. I was. Fast forward to my junior year in high school. I was 15, impressionable, and it was a duty of mine to write a term paper for Jepp, and I got her permission to use that in a speech contest I was going to be in a few days later, hosted by the Lions Club. And she said, yeah, you can use the same text for both as long as your speech coach okays it. So I did. My principle at that time was I had to write one less paper because I could use one of them for both. So I wrote the paper, submitted it to Jepp. A couple days later, she handed it back with an A-. I kind of went, phew, that's great, because as I said, she was a very tough grader. I handed it to the speech coach and told him this is the one I'll be getting at the Lions Club contest. This was an important contest for me to win because my family were all educators, relatively impoverished, and through some financial reversals, we had to use all of my money that I had saved for family things. So I needed every scholarship I could get to get into college. And I needed to have this Lions Club scholarship. So the speech coach looked at it and said, that's fine, I think you'll do well. A couple days later, I went to Jepp and talked something about a different subject, and she said, are you going to use that for the speech after all? And I said, Jepp, you gave me an A. She said, no, I gave you an A-. She said, are you proud of the minus? And I said, well, how could I do better? And so she coached me in a few things. She gave me some advice on a few things. So I handed it back to her a few days later. She scratched out the minus, handed it back to me and said, now it's an A. I gave the revised one to the speech coach who said, that's fine. And a few days later, I bumped into Jepp at a social event somewhere. And she said, are you still giving that speech? I said, I'm giving the revised one, the one you helped me with. And she said, wouldn't it be better to give an A+ speech? And I said, please don't tell me you want me to rewrite this again. She said, yes, I think you need to work on your opening and your closing, because in literature, you grab the writer at the beginning and you reinforce them at the end. And the same thing in public speaking, you want to rewrite it again. So with incredible reluctance, I went back, spoofed up the opening and the end, and handed it back to her. And she gave me the duty A+. I presented it to the Lions Club speech contest, and I won. That A+ lesson was replicated, I am certain, with thousands and thousands of students that she had during those 32 years of being the most revered, iconic, and certainly celebrated teacher in the history of that school district. A little while ago, Art was talking about the fact that she attended a 50th class reunion. It happened to be my class. And she agreed to come out from Blair, Nebraska to Pomona, California. For those of you that have made a trip to Southern California, that's not the easiest thing to do. And she was 92 at the time. So she and Rhonda Matney, and I digress for a second here to say that Rhonda Matney and her daughters, the Matney family, have been so extraordinarily supportive of Jepp's life here in this part of the world that you all owe her and her family a debt of great gratitude. It was amazing. Rhonda accompanied Jepp on this these flights, plural, to Southern California. We had the reunion, and as usual, Jepp was the life of the party. She told many, many stories, including some ribald ones that I can't retell in this venue. But since it was brought up by someone before me, I'm happy to tell you that the four-letter word story is available to any one of you that wants to go to YouTube and type Ada Jeppesen. And you can, on a first-hand basis, listen in her own words to that somewhat ribald but incredibly indicative story of what Jepp, who she was and who we all remembered her to be. So at the behest of those thousands of students from Pomona, California that I'm here to speak for, in honor of this amazing, heroic woman, I say again, heaven has another hero today and will for a while. And we appreciate everything you've done for all of us in our educational history, Jepp. And we appreciate the opportunity to refer to you as Jepp with the kind of respect and endearment we strongly feel for you. God bless you, Ada Jeppesen, and God bless America.